My name is Thomas Ridley. I'm born and bred in Indianapolis, Indiana. I attended Arlington High School, not really valuing education probably as I should have. I went for the so-called better paycheck. I ended up working for a particular company and I got garnishing. So sometimes on Friday I have to make a choice of which utility would I pay or would I go and purchase food first. All of which left me, ended up borrowing money. In Indianapolis, this was the 80s. All the jobs such as Chrysler and Link Belt and all those types of places that my grandfathers and people before myself worked at were gone from the community. Pretty soon I had a friend that was into drugs. He sold drugs and he would always loan me money. But when I would come to pay him, he'd say, man, I hate to take this because I know you really can't afford it. He said, I tell you what, why don't you just take this here package and drop this off and you just keep that money. All of a sudden my money was becoming abundant. I was able to pay all the bills. So, like I said, I never wanted to be in the illegal world, but to me it was justified because I had to take care of my family. All of a sudden this whirlwind of narcotics came into our community and the destruction that it ultimately did to our community was massive. It was November the 10th of 1993 when about 6 o'clock in the morning, the front door of the dwelling where I stayed exploded, yielding federal, local, state authorities serving a federal warrant. Within minutes, I was in handcuffs. I got 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Keep in mind, in the federal system, there is no parole. So basically my out date was deceased. It took me, I'm going to say 3 years to get over the hate, the disdain for everybody. I blamed everybody but me. Before you sit down and say, look, stop. Firstly, you put yourself in that position. And lo and behold, one day I sat in the yard, a few of the guys, they said that this one young man wanted to meet me. So I said, okay, bring him over. And I noticed he was looking like he was looking at a celebrity. I said, you know what, Big T? He said, I was in grade school. And he said, our teacher told us to write an essay. He said, and all I knew was y'all. So I wrote an essay on you. He had seen us driving through his little town in flashy cars. So this kid sat in front of me with 99 years. All I could think of is, am I responsible for him? I think that was some of the hardest stuff I ever had to deal with. I made up my mind from then on that I would watch out for all of these kids. So I started teaching public speaking because I found out some of these children couldn't really speak. So a lot of times they would get into a fight because they couldn't communicate. I promised those people that if I ever got out, that I wouldn't forget them, that I would do everything that I could to help get them out. But until then, I'm gonna help you go out better than the way you come in. When they would leave to go home, I told them don't come back. Much to my astonishment, they continued to come back, a lot of them. I mean, within months. And they would say, T, man, it's nothing out there. I said, yes, it is. It's out there. You're not taking advantage of it. Ultimately, I did 22 years in a federal prison. I entered into this program known as REACH. It's a federal program, and it's for guys getting out of prisons that are at high risk of recidivism, returning to prison. They gave me what was called a mentor at that time, which were young students, law students from IUPUI. And there's a faculty member known as Lonnie Silva, and she was amazing.
So there is a plethora of issues that people released from prison, whether federal or state prison, face upon release. Probably the primary issue that people have is housing. To get a lease and have a criminal history, to move into subsidized housing with a family member, Section 8 or public housing is a problem, and it could put the whole household at risk. Another issue, which is really a problem, is driver's licenses. People getting released from prison typically will have old traffic tickets. And when they're released from prison and they try to get their driver's license, all of these records pop up. So in areas like the Midwest, where public transportation is not the norm, you have to have a driver's license. The recidivism rate typically, cross-nationally, is between 50 and 75%. The Bureau of Justice Statistics just put out a 9-year longitudinal study that showed that people that are released from federal imprisonment are 85 to close to 89% likely to recidivate over a 9-year period. So at this point, reentry and the topic of reentry and service provision is really critical. So Thomas Ridley's One Like Me really just started to kind of take people on a case management basis. And the recidivism rate for his program in the case management area was less than 10%. That tells us, number one, that peer mentoring does really work. And two, that wraparound services are a necessity.
What we do is utilize the money that we get from CICF or whomever, and we use that as barrier buster money to help those young men, women, get over those hurdles.
In the outreach component of the Thomas Ridley's One Like Me program, SCRAP is the service provider and the key partner. The SCRAP students are dedicated, they are hardworking, and they are excited to help people that society has often forgotten about or has stigmatized. And what SCRAP has done over the past year, year and a half, is got over $100,000 in traffic tickets waived, dismissed, or set aside, and that's not including reinstatement fees. So this group is really known in the city of Indianapolis as the premier group for people to come to. When the community comes to receive services, they're not judged, they're treated with respect, and we get it done. The SCRAP outreach could be expanded exponentially with funding from people like you. We could potentially get a justice bus. We could actually go to impoverished areas and just set up outreach wherever we wanted to on that day. Another thing that funding could provide for us is office space.
So welcome to our dream. It needs a ton of work, and we're really looking to purchase this building as our office space where we can provide people with assistance with driver's licenses, child support hold-on licenses, expungements, and these are the two big buildings. This will be an area where people can purchase food. We're hoping to have a little store here just to provide some sustainable income to pay a mortgage. So down the hallway, there is some rooms here. We can actually provide temporary housing for people, and that they can work in the store as kind of their first job. And as you see, a lot of the structure here has been damaged. So what we will need to do before, of course, we have anybody occupying this, living here, or even operating any kind of business, we have to fix these things. We're talking lots of money, and lots of money that we don't have. So we're looking to you to kind of help us get this building in an operational status, if you will.
We've since had a couple of block parties here, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the community, in a community that's rife with danger. They're so happy to see something positive. If you give a person that has done time like this a real chance, a real opportunity, you'll choose it. That is what we provide for them.
My name is Mike Epps, and I was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was young, in the streets, and I used to watch Thomas. I used to watch those guys, man. To see those guys come from where they came from, and to be here in the present doing God's work is extremely amazing. I can identify and I understand. I've been all around the world. There's no place like Indianapolis to me. I always tell people, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. I think raising money for programs like One Like Me is so important. And it's just a blessing that these people have the heart to help these people, man. There's so many brothers out there and sisters that need help and need support. That's what One Like Me is about. Support, love, and showing people that there is a second and third, fourth chances, whatever you need to keep going in life.